Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the March 26, 2025 council meeting. Call the meeting to order. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Burris.
Present.
Councilmember Hilberg.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McCauley.
Here.
Mayor Lohman.
Here.
And let it be known that Councilmember Douglas will be absent this evening.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda order?
I did want to note one thing on the agenda order tonight, something missing. We had discussed putting an item on here regarding the girls' basketball team to make sure that we discussed it before the banquet that's happening on Sunday. It is urgent. Can we add that to tonight's agenda?
No.
Sorry.
Fortunately, that was missed.
We've done this before though, for railroad days. So why can't we do it for
Councilmember,
this?
what's the request?
The request is to determine a donation to the girls' basketball team in recognition of their performance over the last 5 years. It was asked to go on the agenda tonight at the last meeting. We agreed it would, and then it didn't. And it's an urgent item that needs to be approved by council by Sunday.
So I apologize to the council member for the oversight on the agenda. However, it is spending the city's money, which is typically the most important thing to notify the public of. And we didn't do that here, so it's not something that the council can act on at this meeting.
So I'm just confused why we were able to do that for railroad days for that exact same reason, but we can't do it for this item.
I am not familiar with the railroad days item
Okay.
you're referring to.
That might have been while Mick was here.
If the council member would like, she can ask the city manager to call a special meeting for that item.
I'd appreciate it if it's not too much trouble.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Bring it up and go to the order.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda order?
I'll motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. Item 1E, statement of conflict of interest. Do we have any new conflicts of interest?
Nope.
Nope. Great. Okay, move on to item 2, the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion with a council vote unless a council member and or member of the public requests an item be pulled for consent for discussion. Items pulled will be addressed after council completes its consent vote and will require a separate motion. Are there any items that council or the public would like to see pulled from the consent calendar? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right. And I'm supposed to say, as a reminder to the public, this meeting is being live streamed. Please be sure to speak clearly into the microphones for optimal audio recording if you'd like to make a comment during the meeting. All right, we'll move on to item 3, agency reports. Placer County Sheriff.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Good. Sergeant Toby Williams, Placer County Sheriff's Office. Nothing new to report from last meeting. As it stands right now, we'll go over the statistics for March next month, but we're on track to being about the same from February. We'll confirm that next month. And we are still working on a date for the meet and greet for our deputies and myself to come up and have coffee or whatever it is that the council decides to do. That'll be made public to you guys and to the general public, so you can come out and say hi to everybody, ask any questions that you have, and get to know us a little bit more. Other than that, nice weather, and we're going back to that the cold weather here this next week. So just kind of preparing for that. Otherwise, I don't have anything else. Unless anyone has any questions. Thank you.
All right, CHP, not here tonight, CAL FIRE.
Good evening, James Schichtel, CAL Fire Captain here at Station 30. Been here for about 6 months. Nice to see you guys. Just wanted to bring to your guys' attention, we'll be at peak staffing with our Type 3 Schedule B resources on the 31st. And we're going to continue our burnt flat pile burning project. We've been doing that 2 days a week. We're looking at ramping that up to 3 days a week, just so that we can bring it to some sort of conclusion before we lose our burn window. And you're going to see our crews engage with the public, door to door, doing defensible space inspections, just to make sure everyone's compliant and that we're looking good. Our fire safety is tip top and everyone's being educated. And that's all I have for you. You guys have any questions?
Any questions? All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,
Do we have any nonprofits here tonight? No. Please come on up.
Good evening. I'm Jason Shapiro. I'm Jason Shapiro with CareSphere. We are in the 34 North Main Street building. And I just wanted to give a quick update. It's fun stuff. We're in and open as of this Tuesday. So you'll see us in there from Tuesday through Saturdays, 10 to 6, barring some scattered appointments, but outside of that, we'll be there. The building looks vastly different, so I encourage everybody to come in and take a peek. If we're not there, look through the window. It's a nice looking space now. We have something really fun and exciting on the calendar for a fundraising event. It's to support our mission, but we're also directing it towards the city itself. We're working with the Colfax Theater, and we've got an entertainer that's coming in, very, very talented, very well known in the guitar world. We'll have some wine tasting, a silent auction fundraiser, and just a fun time. So we tried to work with all of the organizations that are local. The one that we just couldn't make happen was the vineyard that's in Colfax. So we're mobilizing quickly so we can actually get some posters up. Also, we have a 70-mile radius around Colfax, so it reaches from Davis to Reno and beyond El Dorado Hills for our advertising. So we expect that we're going to probably, if we don't sell out, we'll probably be very close. We haven't, so the ads are on, but we haven't had any flyers up, and we've already sold tickets just from the Google visibility. So it's good stuff. We're underway. Our mission is going, and it seems like everybody that's come in has been very positive and very welcoming. So that's it.
Great, thank you so much.
Yep, thanks.
All right. Do we have any other nonprofits tonight? No, all right. We have no presentations tonight, so we will move on to item 5, public hearing. Tonight, we have one public hearing on the historic resource inventory. City planner, would you please introduce us?
Good evening. I'm Kathy Pease, and I'm pleased to be here tonight. PowerPoint. Great. So we embarked on this historic inventory. I've been slowly, as you know, going through our general plan to see the implementation strategies and bringing those forward. Part of that, recently was a zoning code update that I had noticed was an implementation strategy. So when the general plan was updated, there are two goals and policies that direct us to create and maintain an inventory of all historic structures and areas in Colfax. So a historic resources inventory is a list of historic resources that merit conservation but are not legally protected. As the council's probably aware, we do have a zoning code requirement for the downtown. There's a downtown historic district and there are design guidelines that go along with that. The historic district downtown is based on its representation as a Western commercial area with architecture that conveys a sense of time period when the city was established. So what makes something historic? It can be a building, structure, object, site, or landscape. If it's significant to the American historic background or of local significance is an example of architecture, archaeology, engineering, a historic event, or culture. 2 buildings in the city are listed on both the Federal National Register and the California Historic Resources List. This includes the depot and the Colfax Passenger Depot. So what I'm bringing forward tonight, the document has a brief historic summary, a historic inventory table that lists the structures, and then individual historic resources forms that are on the state of California individual Department of Parks and Recreation historic forms. So for background, the information that I pulled for this document came from the Historic District Design Master Plan that was dated from back in 2009. It included a property inventory, but the inventory was incomplete. It also looks like the master plan was never really implemented. This proposed inventory is limited in scope. It's based on the master plan information from the state and federal registers, field surveys, and additional online research. Additional surveys would be needed for the remainder of the city, which is primarily residential structures. There are advantages to being listed on an adopted historic resources inventory. The Mills Act is an economic incentive program for property owners that can grant tax abatements for restoration and preservation of qualified historic buildings by private property owners if they are eligible for listing on the California State Resources Registry. There also is an opportunity to use the California Historic Building Code that provides some flexibility for historic structures. It also could lead to potential grant opportunities. Although the City Council may adopt the resources inventory, it should be noted that demolition permits are ministerial in nature. That means they're allowed by right without needing entitlements. Therefore, it would not preclude significant changes to historic resources. The City Council could consider a historic preservation ordinance in the future if additional protections are desired. So with that, we are recommending that we adopt a resolution to establish this inventory.
Thank you very much, Kathy.
You're welcome.
I will open the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the public? This item. The question was how many historic properties are on the list?
Believe it is 32 structures.
Do we have any other questions from the public? Comments? Anything online? No? All right. I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Council, do you have any questions?
I would just make a comment. It's very impressive what you did.
Thank you.
You know, I had no idea what all we had in this town, and seems like we ought to be able to do something with that, you know? get that publicized in some way. But that's my only comment.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I love the extra information that you put in here, everything from, this type of architecture, what the history is of the building and the things that it's been used. This is really awesome. Thank you, Kathy.
Good. It's fun. I have a background in historic preservation, so.
Great. Well, it definitely shined here.
Yeah.
Thank you very
This
much.
is exciting. So
Yes.
thank you
Yeah.
So much.
Very nice document. All right, any other questions? No? All right, can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, passes.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you very much, Kathy. All right, we'll move on to item 6, public comment. Every resident has the opportunity to address city council for comment. When the appropriate time for public comment is called, you may speak to the council on items that are not on the agenda. The council cannot act on these items at this time, including if the item is not included in the agenda. However, the items will automatically be referred to staff. Please come up to the podium and speak clearly if you have any comments. Do we have any public comment tonight? No? Nothing online? All right. We'll move on to item 7. We'll go ahead, council and staff reports. Larry, anything to report tonight?
Nothing to report tonight.
Right. Trinity?
I have nothing reportable tonight.
The last 2 weeks, I had 2 different SACOG meetings that I attended. One was a tour in Rockland and the other one was downtown in Sacramento. And we had one of the meetings for the Heritage Park moving the caboose. So
I have nothing to report tonight. Ron? City manager update?
All right, staff prepared and performed interviews for a financial services contractor. I met with Councilman Silberg, Douglas, and McCauley last week or during this period. Been working on the outdoor dining, which is a lot like remodeling a bathroom. Every time you look at something, it just goes and goes and you find more stuff. Maintenance staff has finished the repair of the guardrail over by Lift Station 5 off Canyon Way. They've used a vac trader to clean multiple storm drains, getting ready for the next storms. They're making the ballpark ready. They've mowed, thatched, aerated, fertilized, and seeded the grass up there. Maintenance staff attended some traffic control training. And the vehicles are ready for snow. If we happen to get some, the snow plows are on them and we're ready to go. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 8, council business. Tonight we have 3 items on the agenda. The first item for tonight is outdoor dining area on North Main Street. City manager, could you please introduce the item?
I will recuse myself first
Yep.
and then we'll go from there.
Perfect, thank you.
And just for the record, Caroline is recusing herself because she is the president of Railroad Days, which donated money to this project. So thank you, Caroline.
All right, at the last council meeting, March 12th, staff was directed to put together high-level cost estimates and some proposals. There's some drawings in there in your agenda package. And some quotes have been gathered for the fencing. Caroline's done that. And the tables have been purchased and they're on their way. Some of what we've discovered with the area down there is the walking surface does not meet ADA compliance. So we're trying to figure out if there's a way around some of that, if we can do some other work or some other things. But we did bring out a specialist from BB today, and they measured it all and with their levels and said, nope, you're out of compliance.
So the asphalt surface
The
is
asphalt
not,
surface
is
itself
not within grade.
is over 2%
Hmm.
in all the way around.
Great.
So with that, we'll have to decide how we want to grade it out. Whether we concrete, blacktop, the Phil's idea that he had with the DG.
Sorry, just one last question on that same note before we move further.
Mhm.
So what I'm understanding is because we're gonna have to bring it to that grade, we're gonna have this engineered no matter what at this point.
Right. Yeah, that's movement.
Okay.
Yeah, kind
That
of.
just put other options back on the table willingly or not.
Right. So you'll need things like a topographical survey, civil design. If you're not doing straight structure, you won't need structural engineering. And it's back and forth whether we have geotechnical engineering. Carl is here to talk about all this tonight and more of what we discovered. Kind of looking over the options. I don't see where we'd have the money to do the whole 97 feet. If you have to put in, if we have to level up the walking surface on that, but we may, depends on how much of this engineering needs to be done. We're thinking maybe we could reduce the space, maybe push it a little north so it encompasses more of the pizza parlor. And just start with that space, call that phase one and do the rest of them in phases. Something to consider there. That might give us more money for the engineering, topographical studies, and to make the ADA improvements, such as an actual concrete ramp. There's been members of the public that weren't too excited about our temporary ramp down there, so maybe we could look at doing something a little better for the future than just a metal temporary ramp. We could look at utilizing the existing space and seeing what we could do with that. And again, with the ADA access updates. And I know we don't want to return it to parking, but that would be the last ditch effort.
Quick question. At what is the actual trigger for the ADA compliance? What is the actual thing triggering it?
Yeah, Carl, city engineer, will jump up
Yeah,
and
I
help us.
wanna, I know
Help
it's
us
a
answer
fine
more of the
line, but
technical questions.
I wanna know what straw breaks the camel's back on that one. Touching it at all. So when we touched it in the first place, we just were out of compliance to begin with.
But we're temporary now, but as soon as we start put in permanent structures, such as pouring footings for the fence posts and things like, now we're looking at permanent instead of a temporary space,
Got you, okay.
for what I
Okay.
understand at this point.
So, yeah, Carl Moore, city engineer. And we met with, like Ron said, folks from the BV and their CAS specialists. And basically, with the city involvement, it just puts us at liable or potential risk of litigation. So even for the improvements that we've completed now, so if we move forward, we're at risk of litigation. So the only correct thing to do would be to provide the survey, get correct design, and then build a smaller space in phases like Ron mentioned.
Or what did you say? What was that term you used earlier, Connor?
I had made, the city manager and I spoke briefly about whether some of the proposals discussed tonight were required under the reasonable accommodation standard. So reluctant to give legal advice from the dais here, and I will of course defer to the CASP expert you spoke with. But as I understand it, the standard under the ADA is we need to make reasonable accommodations. So if that involves some of these estimates I'm looking at here, $112,000 to do some substantial engineering over what is essentially half a dozen park benches, maybe that level of engineering is not required under the reasonable accommodation standard. So that was my advice to Ron, that he talk to an ADA expert about that and, just think through that analysis.
We pay a lot of money for our SACOG membership. This is part of what we pay for. We should lean on them. I think that that's an opportunity where they can provide a resource that might be able to solve that.
Are we going to public first?
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions for Carl right now? No.
The way I look at it, I mentioned our last meeting that what matters the most to me is that we do it right. And in terms of ADA, there's both ADA requirements, and then there's also making it usable and enjoyable for those that are handicapped. And those are different things, and I'm interested in seeing them both. And then I'm kind of happy the way this turned out, I think, because we don't really have a full design yet, but we have three options there are three considerations to make as we design this. One of them is the design of the space itself, and the second is the furnishings, and the third is the size. And we have to mix those together in the right places so that we meet our budget. And it seemed to me that making it smaller was the only reasonable way to do that. And I'm kind of glad we're headed that way. And the other thing I would say is that I think it's most usable by handicapped people if the seating area itself reaches up to curb level. And so I hope that becomes part of our plan. That's the most accommodating. You know, the risks of people falling off the curb and all those sorts of things kind of go away. And handicapped people, whether it's cane or wheelchair or they require help, can walk right out there. They don't have to step down. They don't have to take a ramp. And so I hope we find a way to do that. And then July isn't that far away. We get a chance for a new budget then, and we can consider further steps at that point in time. But I really like your idea of phase one. And let's do phase one in the best way that we can and go forward after that when we can. And that's all.
Thank you, Carl. Did you have any more for the presentation? All right, then I will go ahead and turn this item over for public comment. Nope. Yeah, there, we can't. Hey.
Hi, Chris McNabb, Bloomin' Mountain Flowers. So, I just have to say that, the property owner at our building is not currently happy with the ramp that was deposited in front of our entrance. It wasn't discussed with anyone. And so I think we need to backpedal a little bit on that. And I'm not quite sure how that happened. We were open for business the other day when you were meeting out there. So I do believe if something is going to be placed in front of our business, that we should be aware of that before it happens. I'm all about the moving it down. And I mean, I've been saying that all along. Let's put it where it belongs. And if the case is we have to wait on the rest of it, so be it. But our fight with this all along has been the current debacle that's in front of our business. And so, I mean, to me, I would be more than happy with that, you know, moving it down. It's a little funny that we haven't seen or heard from him on this issue. So, it's a little hard to say how he feels about all that too. So, but yeah, so I think that's about all I have on it, but the sooner that we can get the wooden structure down, the better. We have events coming up and it just is looking worse and worse for our businesses. So thank you.
Thank you.
Before the next person, could you maybe speak to why that ramp went up? Because that was not within the bounds of the staff direction we gave at the last meeting. So I'm a little confused about that installation.
The ramp was put in place because staff was worried about trouble with ADA. We had to pick a place with flat curb that it wouldn't be right out in the middle of the area, and that was the most logical place at the time. And it is a public spot, so we just publicly picked where to put it.
So
City owned, and it's just considered temporary until we come up with something better. And like I said, we should probably do actual concrete ramps instead of metal ramp anyways.
Yeah.
But we needed something to protect ourselves for now.
It sounds like we found out today that the ramp is also not ADA compliant though.
The ramp is a little narrow, according to California ADA. We're really not there for that. Of course, nobody knew that at the time.
Yeah.
So then can we request that it be taken out? Because if the surface isn't ADA compliant and the ramp isn't ADA compliant, it's just more trash in front of our store.
Well, yeah, I agree. It's not the prettiest ramp in the world. The only thought on it was at least we had something that was handicapped people get up and down, even if it's not ADA compliant.
I think it kind of puts us at potentially more legal risk though, because what we had there, we've had there for a long time, but now that we're adding something that's not ADA compliant, we're adding to the problem, even though our intentions are good. So maybe that's just something to think about,
Well, it's just a matter of time before somebody notices.
you know.
Did adding the ADA ramp change our position with that or no?
Well, we originally thought so until we found out that when the ADA specialist was out, the ramp was too narrow. So the ramp meets federal ADA standards, but of course, California magically has their own written down somewhere that no one knew about.
More stringent.
Okay, thank
Try
you.
to do
So
something.
if council wants to direct staff to take it out, we can. We didn't know that when we put it in. We were trying to avoid trouble with ADA.
We will evaluate that with staff.
Yeah.
Do we have any other public comment on this item?
Right, Caroline McCauley with Railroad Days. When I had talked to Ron and he was giving us, talking about the numbers for each of these. I thought, my gut instinct is back to this, we don't want to get rid of it. I mean, I think all the council had decided that we wanted something to be able to stay. And while I agree with Larry that in a perfect world, we would be able to bring it up to level and make it beautiful. I also don't think it's realistic at this time to be able to pour $112,000 concrete pad. So my thought, and this is what I would hope, and then of course you're going to do what you want, is that we can go with just fixing the asphalt side, bring it up to the 2% grade that it needs to be. And this is what I wanted to ask Carl, this number, does this include the engineering and all that stuff, or is that just the materials and we don't know what, because it's 10,000, it's 10,400. So did this include the engineering numbers and stuff too, or how much of that? What do we need to add?
No, I prepared this and I've since prepared another estimate that does include design. So this here does not include the design.
Okay. Do you know that number? I mean, so this was my question, if with the design side and then doing the asphalt portion, if that stays under the 25,000 that the city was willing to put, if they cover that part, then in theory, Railroad Days can cover the tables and the fencing. So we can at least get the asphalt part done. It's not all the way, but it's going to be able to be functionable. And then we can still add the tables and the tables and the fencing. And if it comes down to, instead of doing the 90 feet, which is what we had looked at prior, if to stay within the 25,000 the city had offered, if we got to go down to 70 feet or, so be it, to stay within that funding. Because the council had said, yes, go ahead and order the tables. The first 6 are being delivered on Friday. They will be here Friday morning from CAL FIRE. I think the current plan that we had kind of talked about when I let Ron know they were coming is that 3 of them were going to be put in the seating area and the other 3 would go to the corporation yard until we had the additional space. And then that way the umbrellas would come out and the tables that are out there right now would come out. But you would have those nicer tables that you had chosen, that they would be there. So that would be there. And then the other 3 would be waiting for whenever we were able to put that additional fencing. But from the numbers I found on the fencing and with the tables you chose, Railroad Days can do the fencing and the tables. And then we should be able to still get umbrellas. We'll just put holes in the middle of the tables so we can put umbrellas in there for now. Pretty easy to deal with. Just requires a hole saw, so we can do that. But that was my thought, was if the city will cover doing the asphalt, bringing that up to the 2%, whatever total dimension that is to fit in your budget, then Railroad Days should be able to cover the tables and the fencing. So, great, thanks.
Thank you.
You mentioned moving it. Is if we moved it in front of Leeds, are we at the 2%? Or are we not?
Yeah, the whole area is off a little bit. As we move it north, it actually levels out a little bit, so it
Yeah.
probably costs a little less to level out the walking surface.
Which was the original intent, was that we were gonna put the ABC area in front of the ABC
Right.
business.
Right, exactly. And
That's
that's
good to
kind of
know.
why I rehashed this, is we move it up a couple of spaces and then that opens it up in front of Mountain Flowers business, and then it also pushes it in front of Leeds where it meets his ABC standards better than he has now.
It's good to know.
So are we talking about just moving it in front of Lee's? Is that what your intention was?
No, it would still be partially, but it would be, I was thinking that we'd have like 1.5 parking spots open. That way I wouldn't have to worry about anybody clipping the fence when they come in.
So like separating it down, I'm confused on the design that you're talking about.
If you look at
Like
the
I have this
So
one.
from the planter, we'd go north about 1.5 spots and then put the fence there. That way I could put a couple troughs around the fence and keep people from hammering the fence with the vehicle,
So
hitting the
you-
corner. And then we could just stretch it up to the edge of the north end of the Leeds building.
So it's the same as it was on the last design for lead space where it cuts into that corner of that second parking space, but the entire area in front of Snapdragon still is clearly defined separately from leads.
Okay. Okay.
I know it's a little confusing, but it does move
Yeah.
it out of
Okay.
the north perspective. I think when you remove all fencing to the left side, that makes it a lot clearer to see.
And so are we talking about like removing the old area like sooner then? Because this is obviously gonna take a while, you guys. This is gonna take a while. We can do seating on the sidewalk for now, or wherever, you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the big resistance is to all of it. But it's gonna be raining for the next 4 weeks, you know? But yeah, okay.
Well, we have no urgency. I agree with that, and nor do we have a design. And we haven't even heard from people about parking yet, so I don't think we're far enough along. And then just to make sure it's clear, I never said anything about concrete.
Well, you were talking about bringing it up to the
I think-
level and
I
on here.
was.
on
I
here it
was,
says a concrete
I didn't
pad,
say
so-
concrete.
Right, that's on line item 1, but the second one is the decomposed granite. I
Right.
think that's what Larry's referring to.
Right. To clarify, I think what we had talked about, and of course you're gonna do what you want with it, is if we need to shrink the area and we can either do what we talked about originally, which was on either side of the planter, having 2 smaller seating areas. Or shifting down, because I know we were looking at trying to keep it, you know, within the boundaries of the eating establishment. So that's the other option. And we had talked about if we split it into 2 pieces, while both still have to be brought to the 2% grade, it's not such a giant leap. Because of course, the north side is taller than the south side. So now you're looking at a smaller footprint. So it's actually smaller, a less amount of material you have to put on the south side if you're doing a smaller seating area, if that makes sense. So.
One other comment for you, Carl, I guess. Will you have a CASP expert available to you? Could a portion of the project be made ADA compliant, like a portion of the seating area? I don't know. Perhaps making 1 or 2 benches or one end of it ADA compliant might satisfy the law. I just don't know.
I asked that question today
Okay.
and the answer was no.
Okay.
That was my initial thought too, if we make one table ADA compliant at the bottom of the ramp and make that 2%. But if that table's taken, then the person in a wheelchair has to go to another table. And so the entire area has to be ADA compliant, which is 2% max in any direction.
And I didn't mention, but we could make it narrower as well as keeping it small and pushing it north. So it's kind of up to council how you want to direct staff to design this.
And I also want to mention that I did include the decomposed granite in the cost estimate. But from most of my recollections with landscape architects, they're against DG. It can be messy. If it spills out, it's a maintenance issue. It can then, ravel, especially during wet weather. It requires maintenance. So it's definitely something we'd want to consider if the city's going to have to maintain this.
Yeah, there's sealants for DG, but I don't know how long they hold up before everything starts just coming apart.
We could consider decking. We haven't really talked about doing a decking.
Right, we did consider decking. That was one idea. We'd have to see how the price compared. The problem with decking is now you have a vector issue. So you can have a place for skunks, rats and things like that underneath, and no matter how tight you make it, they seem to get in. So that'd be just one thought. Yeah, I liked the idea initially, and I thought, oh, how would we control animals underneath? So we could certainly do it and try our best to control that. But
That's defeatable.
yeah. Now we're open to all suggestions.
And I think we need to know more about the AG. I mean, we think we know and we've made statements about it, but we don't know for sure, right?
Clearly, we
If
won't
it's,
work.
I'm sorry.
About the decomposed granite.
Yeah, the
We know
granite,
it's
yeah.
problematic long-term. I just don't know how long a sealer would last on it. And that probably depends on how cold it gets, how hot it gets, weather, usage, traffic, all that kind of thing.
I know that he's not here tonight, but Phil talked about sealing it and also securing it with a perimeter. And, you know, maybe we wouldn't have those problems. I don't know that much about it either, but I would like to if we're going to make a decision.
Yeah, it was a real fabulous and a nice design. I like the color aspect, but again, I don't know how long the sealant would last. That doesn't say we can't come back and reseal. It would just be added maintenance.
And part of the issue is that staff has kind of been in a little bit of a rush trying to provide something for the space, which we understand. But based on everything we've talked about today and where we're at now, a landscape architect that maybe specializes in outdoor seating might be a good fit, and which is not included in the $20,000 fee estimate that I have in there. But landscape architects are really good at knowing this type of space and providing various options. And they can actually do grading as well. So it wouldn't probably require a civil engineer and a landscape architect, but it's just something else to think about. I personally don't know of any landscape architects that specialize in outdoor seating. I think it is a fairly new thing since COVID, but we could reach out to a few and see if they do that. And we could also go out to RFP, RFQ and see what we get.
Right, we do that along with the topo survey.
I mean, a good architect could also recommend surfaces
Right.
and how to do that
Yes.
and have the information. Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay. Do we have any other public comment? Please come on up to the mic.
Hi, my name's Sherry Peterson. I live in Colfax and I also own one of the buildings on Main Street that you guys are talking about. It's 30 North Main Street. And this picture is, sorry, but it's not helpful to my business, to my building at all. And when you talk about just building up in front of the pizza place, that's kind of an insult to some of the rest of us. And I would suggest that number one, we make it more narrow and that we can have a bike lane coming out after it. So more narrow and longer, and make sure that we have the input of every, not only business, but every landlord on the street that, and if they haven't attended, like I haven't much, then you need to go contact them individually as city councilmen. And I personally think that we have a lot of really good talent in Colfax and the surrounding areas, and we should be able to get some engineering ideas for really cheap. I don't like to see us nickel and diming all our money away. And I'm glad that we're working on it, and I'm grateful that we're taking our time on it. And I'm sorry it's so frustrating that none of us can agree on anything. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about us. So I'm just hang in there, and I think we're going to have a really good thing, and we can do it for a lot less than we think.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Yeah, you've got
Paul?
at least two others.
Yeah.
My name is Paul Raj, on the 2 North Main Street and 14 North Main Street buildings. And I never liked the 9 parking spot taken from the small community, small streets. And I think we should work on 3 or 4 parking spot instead of taking a 9 parking spot. That's really taken away a lot of the parking spot for the customers and each customers. So we already shorthanded, especially on the weekend. It's really tight, and sometimes customers said, "Hey, Paul, you have no parking spot. We have to go up the hill to go pick up some stuff." And especially when we have an event, it's really bad. But that time, all you have to tell them, hey, this is only for one day, not for every day. But losing a 9 parking spot, and it's going to be hurt the businesses. And also, I'm thinking of leasing to somebody else, one of the build business, which is not doing really good. And the tenant's gonna look at the parking, he's gonna say, hey, you have no parking in front of your business. And how we can lease it, all the customers gonna come in and out. So it would be a no convenience, no parking spot in front of the business. It's gonna hurt, and I cannot lease to anybody else. And I think we should condense that from 9 to 4, 3 to 4 would be better for everybody, all the businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Next.
Looking at the renderings, is there a rendering for what the canopy will look like, or have you guys discussed that?
There is a rendering for it. It's not part of this agenda, and I think the reason it isn't is because when they did the cost analysis for the canopy, it was over $34,000, which was pretty much the entire budget by itself and then some. So it kind of made that unpractical.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Jason Shapiro, 34 North Main. So a lot of those issues were really, really predictable. Giving thought to what it could mean for the downtown area is it's a great idea, and it's good to see that this is happening. But at the last meeting, a comment was made that there's like 83 parking spaces in total that somebody had counted. And so losing 9 wouldn't be all that impactful. But if you have a business where your foot traffic is in and out within 1 to 5 minutes, think about how impactful that would be if somebody has to walk 3 minutes back and forth to their car, and whether they're going to just be incentivized to drive another minute to make the walk shorter. So it's a little bit short-sighted to lose that much parking, because it's actually more than half of the spaces that are in that area. So my thought is that one solution could be, Ron, I think you mentioned it, is to make that that boardwalkish area more narrow. And then you could replace some of the parking that gets lost with parallel parking. And so that would be a helpful solution to move forward with that concept. As an ancillary benefit, it also knocks down the costs of construction. And people don't need a 24-foot addition to create a space hoping that it is going to generate more interest in the town. That boardwalk itself won't generate any new interest. It's just going to make people that are already on their way here or visiting remember it maybe a little bit more fondly. So it'll have a very long-term positive effect, but possibly a local effect that is a little detrimental. So, and I was just going over the numbers. I mean, right out of the gate. So the canopy, that was exactly where my brain was going, was lose that idea. First, it's a maintenance nightmare. You're going to get maybe 2-3 years out of the highest quality materials if you're lucky. You've got snow loads, so you've got a concern with maybe needing to take it down seasonally. So that's extra man hours or person hours. And then you have the other engineering nightmares from my schooling. I just remember that uplift can create a major engineering challenge. And something as simple as a canopy, as strong as you want to make it, makes it a bigger issue on the uplift factor. So for it to potentially blow away. and taking posts down along with it and creating a public hazard. So that can be solved with umbrellas. They can be taken down, put up at will, and they're easy and cheap to replace. That takes out a huge amount of the budget. Going to DG, that was a great idea. It's a clever solution. And going with like a polymeric type of sealant, it's not a bad idea, but that there is the issue of having it get wet and then overnight it if it gets cold enough that it's going to destroy it, and DG does build up. I've had a lot of experience with it, and so just changing that, maybe coming up with another solution, going DG for the base and then a paver type of product on top, which is a little easier to maintain, and then that reduces, so you lose the 35 grand in canopy. The 15% contingency would be reduced because it's proportional. I mean, it gets you almost close to what is in the coffers for that number. And then going out 10 feet, giving enough space for not having to reallocate throughway and going through the nightmare of having to do that. And I think it can serve a lot of people. I think it would be beneficial to have it. I just think that we maybe haven't hit the design yet. That's it. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Make round robin it. So we'll just keep
Hi,
the same people through.
What has me concerned at the very, very beginning, and everyone says it can't be done, and everything can be done. It's so wide, why can't we just move the street sign and then we can have room for these spaces and parking? And that's I don't understand why we can't just move that, because that would really open up a lot of space. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm sorry, I moved.
There's a
what?
lot of space. The roads are way too wide out there.
Oh,
We
yeah,
can,
that's already
if
on the
we can
table.
just scooch
Yeah.
it over,
Yeah.
then we can have everybody. We can have the narrower space. I think narrow, I agree with you guys. And we can also keep the parking for Paul in the whole street.
Yeah.
Well, so we can kind of solve that parking problem with putting up 15-minute parking signs or 30-minute parking signs and limiting the amount of parking time that people are doing. So that gets people in the slow service and or the quick service and quick stop in and out.
But the 15 minutes, 12 minutes parking, and like you go into the like antique shop, it takes you about at least a half an hour to look around, and then that person's not going to have a time for go to the next business. And that was we talked about it. I talked to my neighbor there, and he said, well, people comes in, walk around, they spend about 15, 20 minutes. Then they want to come to my store, at least another 5, 6 minutes. Then they want to go to the coffee shop or order a pizza. Pizza takes at least 45 minutes. Then I don't think that 15 minutes or 20 minutes are going to work for the businesses.
Okay, thank you.
I did want to add one more thing along those lines. First, the 15-minute parking signs. I think the kindest hearted people will go around the block at least one time, maybe. And then when they realize that there are only like 5 spots left, and one of them the only one left happens to be a 15-minute parking, they're just going to park there. And I don't think that we're ready to have enforcement for that. The thing that I also wanted to add was it's not coming with a lot of foresight, because we're doing this based on a concept that is mobilizing around serving the few eateries that are there. But businesses are transient, and then landlords do have the problem in the future of putting in a new tenant that may actually be of a different nature. And so, and it might even be along the lines of a restaurant, but it might be a takeout restaurant. And if somebody is looking at leasing a spot and has a takeout business, they're going to look at a spot that has no parking and they're going to say, yeah, I don't think so. So it actually will have an economic challenge in that light, and it could negatively impact all of the businesses, even the restaurants that are there. We have a full kitchen in that building that I own. And if we did what we're talking about here, it would be a challenge to find a tenant, especially if it was a quick in and out. So that's it.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? Council, anything else?
I'd say at this point, it's very clear we have a lot of homework. We've got several things that we need staff to come back with before we can really give much more insight in where we want to go on this, design wise. I will say about 2 weeks ago, when the snow was coming in, the news came up here and did several interviews. And when I was out there with them, the state of the outdoor dining area, I had to specifically ask them to angle their camera away from it because there were upside down umbrellas. There was one that was ripped. It was really bad. It is clearly in very severe disrepair. At this point, and I've really hesitated from saying this, but I personally would be supportive of removing what is there now until we figure this out.
Sorry, public comments closed.
I'm sorry.
If I may, what I'd like to see from council would be an ad hoc committee with 2 people that are readily available.
I'm pretty sure we already
For this,
formed one.
who's on this?
Me and Sean.
Okay, it's you and
We
Sean.
formed it at the last meeting.
Okay, I didn't have that either.
So I think we need to have the ad hoc committee meet, and we need to kind of look toward the asphalt idea and
Yeah.
see what size we want to bring it for right now until we can figure out more funds in the budget to either make a larger space or see how the smaller space works or whatever. It seems like most people here are in favor of slightly less seating space tonight.
Yeah.
So we'll look at that as an option, look at the full size, get some cost estimates there and keep pushing forward so that we can get it cleaned up. But it's not going anywhere. We're going to keep working on it. And once it gets clean, once we have a plan, we'll get it cleaned up.
Well, Larry still needs to talk because we're giving direction, and if 2 out of 3 of us say that it's coming down, then it's coming down. But he hasn't had his chance yet, so.
I don't know what the businesses would think just off the top, because there are people that sit out there. And I agree that it's unattractive. I think we need something attractive. And I think we need it to be public so that anybody can sit there no matter where the business is that they spent their money at. But I think it needs to be attractive. And again, my statement about ADA, you know, it should be easy for handicapped people to utilize that space. You know, whatever that
It
means.
sounds like we're being forced to do. I don't think it's much of an argument at this point. The ADA part.
Yeah, we definitely got to make it ADA. We now know that we have different requirements that we have to meet. So I think the asphalt would be the easiest way to go. I would like to see the seating area stay, and we can work on making sure that the city is helping to better maintain it. It is very beneficial. We're coming up into warmer weather here. If we take it away, we're going to lose it. It's going to be hard to get the project going back again. So I'm going to ask that we please let it stay so that it can still be used and enjoyed by the few businesses that are using it. There's been lots of traffic out there on nice days.
Can we scooch it?
We can do whatever council decides to do, and plus we need direction on the ramp before you finish tonight.
Yeah, if council's supportive of scooching it in front of Leeds business, I will digress on taking it down. But as it stands now, it is very embarrassing and it's not being maintained appropriately.
I agree with that.
Right. So you agree with having it taken down instead of leaving it up to benefit the businesses?
I don't
And-
remember. I wasn't
Okay.
involved when that was all put together, but I believe business owners were involved and some of them spent their money and on tables and umbrellas, and they're probably waiting to see what we're going to do before they make it look better. And so to just take it down without speaking with them is probably not a good idea.
Yeah, there's a couple of businesses that are actually putting all the work or the majority of the work into it that aren't here represented tonight. So I think it'd be short-sighted of us to be like, we're gonna move it, we're gonna take it down, we're gonna just completely change what's already there.
I think we need to do
That would be
something
unfair to
though.
them,
We
but we
should do
definitely,
something,
we
yes.
definitely need to do something. So maybe tonight we can direct city staff to put a little bit of work into it, try and clean it up a little bit more again, make it, you know, do what we can. And we're gonna keep pushing forward as fast as we can to get this cleaned up.
So I am gonna ask that we maybe clearly take a poll. I know we're not, it's not like a voting item, but maybe a more formal poll because we're not all completely aligned. I think we're all aligned in the fact that you are right. If we take it down, it's gonna make things much more difficult to get this going again. But moving it over is a very different implication, and we've been begged relentlessly to please, you know, if nothing else, just move it over 2 spaces. And that is not an unfair ask.
That takes away from the other business on the other side of that business that is asking relentlessly to have it be taken down or destroyed or anything else happen to it besides it stay there. So
Well, it sounds like we're serving one business
we're,
above everyone.
we're
else then.
serving 2 businesses over the one in the middle that is having an issue, it seems like. So I would like to not see it broken apart.
I respect that opinion. I just simply disagree because again, with the
honestly, it's-
original intended purpose and everything, I think it's just important since we're not all aligned, that maybe we kind of pull the council a little more formally so we have clear direction for staff and that way there isn't ambiguity. I just want to make sure that, you know, you don't walk out of here tonight thinking, okay, we're gonna go clean it up, and then you are driving downtown and all of a sudden it's been moved. Or
Well,
vice
that's
versa.
definitely not the direction so
I
far, so.
just want to be very,
I
very
will
clear.
make sure when we go to provide the final direction that I have it exactly right when we go do that.
Yeah, so.
So-
if we Make sure, because my position at this point is I would like to see it scooch down. I don't care if you leave the ramp or not once you move it, but the ramp would need to go with the fencing. Yes, but that's what I'm asking for. It sounds like Sean is asking for it to be moved in or left in place and cleaned up. Larry, I'm not clear on what his position is.
I like what Ron said. I think we ought to be considering phase 1. I don't think we have enough money to do the whole thing. We need phase 1 and what that would be, I don't, needs to be smaller, seems like to me.
We're not quite to that even that point yet. We're just talking about as it sits right now, can we leave it there in place and clean it up so that we can benefit from it this summer or during the spring and hopefully have it completed?
I think if we go to the businesses and tell them that this is going to take a while, we haven't figured out what to do yet. And so if you want to make things look better, then you need to engage something like that. I mean, we don't need to buy new tables and we don't need to buy new umbrellas.
Well,
Well,
to be clear,
Railroad Days already bought the new tables. They're already coming. That was the instruction given 2 weeks ago. We
Yep,
thought we had a good
I
plan.
remember.
to
I'm
be
just,
clear,
I'm
the
thinking of the
business-
businesses.
The business that's sandwiched in the middle of the use space is the one that's been most vocal about how poorly it's been maintained by the businesses that are using it the most. There have been several incidences of people complaining and then also visualizing, you know, again, upside down umbrellas, torn things, our broken fencing, which is our responsibility. So I think we need to just be very clear that if we're saying we're gonna leave it in place, what exact actions are we asking staff to do in order to make this reasonable? And again, it's not just that. Let's also remember that we do have a facility right there who hosts sober events. And now they have directly in front of the building that they're serving from alcohol being served under an ABC license in a seating area that was moved after original construction. So, you know, all these things considered, that was why I brought forward, I think we should scooch it 2 spaces, take it down, do something. So I'm gonna leave that as mine. I understand Sean's position. So Larry, if you can just be extremely clear about what you want to see happen starting tomorrow, that would be amazing.
I don't want to see it taken down. I'd like to see it usable because this is going to take a while. And I'd like our subcommittee, which is you two folks, to get together and talk about where we go from here and make a recommendation.
Great. We'll go ahead all the businesses. And I think we're the perfect two people to be on the subcommittee because we
Yeah.
have vastly different, well,
And
slightly
again-
different views on what we want to see at certain times. I won't say vastly. We both know what we want to do, but we have a good opinions
Yeah.
on either side.
So
So,
what I'm hearing from Larry is do nothing.
Yep.
Wait
Except for
for
clean it
the
up.
subcommittee.
Well, one thing, again, talk to the businesses and tell them this is going to take a while because it means a lot to them to have a nice space in front of
Yes.
them. And they'll either take care of it to improve their business or they won't, but we need to talk to the businesses. So I would just count on you guys to do that.
So Connor, I need some help here. We've got two very drastically different ideas of what to do and one council member who's deferring to a subcommittee of the two people who aren't agreeing. What is our point of order on this?
he just,
I'm gonna recommend you make a motion. Since you have an idea of what you want to do, take a vote on it, and if the motion fails, then
okay. But I'm going to make a motion that we leave the current seating area in place and direct city staff to clean the area up and continue to maintain the area to the best possible standard they can daily to ensure that it is looking presentable until we come up with a plan as quick as possible to put something permanent in. Can I get a second?
Councilmember,
I support what you just said.
Second?
Yes,
Okay.
I second it.
Do we have an opposing motion?
Yes, so we have an opposing motion. The opposing motion is that in addition to cleaning up the existing space, we move the perimeter down the 1.5 spaces as shown in this diagram, which aligns with the original installation. And that we do maintain that space, but that we do that with respect to the fact that it is in front of the other business, pending any further direction on a more permanent structure from the subcommittee.
the motion is to move the current seating area to the east, is that right?
North. So it's everything Sean said, but to move the existing seating area and ramp north rather than having it anchored in front of the same business that's been pleading for help to no avail.
There's a motion to move the seating area north and direct staff to clean and maintain it. Is there a second?
You want to stick with your original motion?
No, I agree with that also.
Well, you got to pick one, so.
Okay,
But then when we get to roll call vote, then he has to make a choice.
All
So
right,
which one do we vote on first, Connor?
yours. Larry, are you seconding this motion?
to move it up a little, yes.
Are you seconding?
I
Okay.
believe we should
We have a
move it up,
second. Can we
yes.
get a roll call vote on Trinity's motion to move this north and clean up the seating area?
I need clarification. How many spaces are we moving it north and 1.5 spaces?
Match the diagram of the north perspective.
I wish we had a better picture because I want to show, see, I think this is very short-sighted. I just got to say again, I think this is very short-sighted to do this without talking to the other businesses, especially Lead, who's been the one sponsoring this for the most part and putting it together and make any changes to the space he's worked so hard on. So, okay,
Additional opinion on that.
cool. They're both seconded. So we'll take a vote on Trinity's motion to do the cleanup and then move the space down away from the other businesses to accommodate one business
Councilmember Lowen?
Without talking to the businesses?
without talking to the businesses further. So was that close enough?
Yes, I
Okay.
think the motion on the table is to move the seating area north by 1.5 spaces, direct staff to clean up and maintain the seating area. The motion has been seconded by Councilmember Hilberg. Let's go ahead and vote on this motion. Yes.
You said 1.5 spaces north. I just want to clarify, we mean both ends?
That is correct.
Yes.
Take the entire.
It makes sense, but I wanted clarification.
Yeah, no, that, I appreciate that. The entire current footprint, move it 1.5 spaces to the north to be situated primarily in front of the business required to monitor it by ABC requirements.
Thank you.
And I will bring up a further point that I have kind of avoided to this degree, but, you know, we do have a litigation settlement that has very specific terms and very specific delicacies that are involved in this that I'm not allowed to elaborate on. And so I think that that's something I'd like council to just think about as we're making our decisions, that it's not simply a placating dynamic.
I have no idea what that means. We have something that we have to keep
Okay.
a secret.
Let's go ahead and.
We have
take a-
we have both motions on the
We have a
floor.
motion on the table. Let's go ahead
So-
and take a roll.
So I
call
don't think
vote.
we should consider anything that has to remain a secret since I don't even know what it is.
Yeah. That wasn't, yeah.
let's-
So let me bring the motion back so we can clarify this a little bit.
I want to clarify it because it started out by moving it, which implied extend. And it was not clear that we remove the seating area behind by a space and a half. That was not clear to me.
So you thought we were going to leave the fence right here along the planter and simply take the parameter that's currently here and move it to here without also moving fence from here to here?
Like I said, it wasn't clear.
Okay, so now that we're clear, my
I-
understanding is this currently sits here and I'd like to put it here.
And so we extend, not, you said extend down when you first meant, you said move down at first. It's really move up, right? Move north, move uphill. And
Yes.
so,
It'd be moving-
okay,
1.5 spaces. Other.
Neither business that'll be affected by that has not been discussed with them at all. So I just want to make everybody aware of that nobody has talked to those businesses about moving it in any direction or taking it down. So we would just be blindsiding with this.
well, that was the first point I made before. We need to talk to the businesses.
Okay, so Trinity's motion on the floor is to move it right now and then do cleanup.
Councilmember Loman.
So,
Mayor
nay.
Loman. Councilmember Burris,
Aye.
Councilmember Hilbert.
Aye.
The motion passes and the Mayor Loman's motion is moot.
Withdraw. All right. Then we will move on to item 8B.
If I may, staff will schedule that as soon as possible.
Great.
Do we have enough direction to staff on meeting with the committee on a design for the project?
You want to just reach out to us and get the closest date you can?
Yeah, once we put some more numbers together, we'll reach out and you can tell us size, diameter, shape, all that kind of thing.
Okay. Cool.
So tentatively, we're kind of aiming.
Carl?
And again, step one would be talk to the businesses.
Okay, this item's closed. Okay, we're moving on to 8B, signage for the Colfax ballpark. Nope, sorry.
This is-
Come on up, Karen. You're finally welcome back.
I'm presenting this one. This is a request to the council from a member of the community. Connie Marston did a presentation on the history of the Colfax ballpark in, I believe it was in December. My screen's jumping around a little bit. It was in October. Connie Marsden, on behalf of the Colfax VFW, presented a history of the Colfax ballpark and asked the council to consider changing the name of the park to reflect the original dedication. The park was originally dedicated as the Colfax Area Living War Memorial Park. And it currently has a sign over it referring to it as the Colfax Ballpark. There's an additional plaque on the plinth of the sign in the memory of Al Myers. So the request from the VFW is to replace the sign, to rename the park to reflect its original dedication, and to replace the sign and put up a new sign with the original park name, as I understand the request. Staff advises that designing a new sign could cost between $500 and $1,000. That doesn't account for the labor and materials to install a new sign. I believe the VFW has raised $2,765 towards this project. So it is possible that the city could reach out to the VFW for financial support on this. The resolution before the council, or the resolution being presented by staff, if the council chooses to adopt the resolution, would rename the ballpark to the Colfax Area Living Veterans War Memorial Park. It would direct the city manager to update the city's general plan and Parks and Recreation master plan to reflect that new name when those documents are next amended or next updated. And it's a conditional, it's conditioned on the city receiving sufficient donations, the city manager would be designated to replace the sign. Any questions about that?
Okay, to clarify. So the concern we had before had to do with updating the general plan. And so what we're saying is that will happen, but it's not going to be a special update. It'll just get changed when we're doing the normal update anyway. So we no longer have to worry about the expense that you had brought up. Okay. Right. I'm just making sure we're clarified.
Yeah, because I had the same.
Okay. All right. So it's still going to get the long-term fix. We're just not going to fix it right now, just the next time the general plan is updated. Okay. So then my next question for clarification is, so the fundraising raised the $2,700. So what you're asking for from our fiscal impacts, is that in addition to their $2,700? Where, because she had said my understanding was they were fundraising for the whole cost of the sign. So I'm curious.
And I understood they were gonna procure it as well.
Yeah, they were supposed to get the sign, all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're.
So to clarify, I received a request for a sign permit, no application, no fee, that just had the name of it. So what I don't have is a sign application. We don't have they didn't hire a consultant to design the sign, so that needs to happen. So that's where part of the cost has not been totally determined. So right now, I don't have anything to review to approve for a sign permit, if that makes sense.
Makes complete sense because they
Yeah.
haven't provided you a design. So what is this $500 to $1,000 from us going to cover then?
It's not a request from the city. That was my estimate of how much it would cost a sign company to design the sign.
Oh, okay.
And then obviously, I don't know how much it would cost to demolish the sign or for a new sign to be erected.
Okay, so we're still at the point, they still have to design it, provide it.
Correct.
I think we said if it's an easy bolt-in, we would be happy to put it in if it was an easy, just put it right back in. But if it's a whole new design, I just want to make sure that we're still on the same page, that we're not funding this. We're agreeing that you can do it and that we'll change the general plan down the line. But if they don't come up with a design that's approved and they don't come up with a sign,
Yeah.
it's all null and void, basically.
And to be clear, if it's city property and it's technically the city's, if we're receiving this in-kind contribution from a nonprofit, why is a permit required? Because we don't necessarily need to, or are you talking about a self-permitting? Because that's where I'm a little confused.
It is city land, city ballpark So that's correct. I guess we wouldn't need, the city doesn't need to request a sign permit for its actions. But because this was a private entity that was requesting it, that's where that came into. So the city council can also waive that. The nuance I do want to point out, definitely the city council purview on what you want to do. The only thing that makes me a little concerned, again, is that the ballpark went through a process when the city had a Parks Commission, and then there was outreach and a community advisory committee that came up with the Parks Master Plan. And then obviously the general plan update was a huge endeavor with the community. So there was a lot that went into it. So that's my only, only concern.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item? Anything online? No? Okay. Council, Larry, you want to start with comments?
I have some of that donated money. I think there's a reason that it started at the VFW because it has to do with veterans, and they were the ones that got this going. And the only concern I had before and raised had to do with spending extra money to update the master plan when we could just do that later. And that's been addressed, so I support it as written. And
Trinity?
Yeah, I'm supportive. I would say that I think we need to waive the sign permit because in the situation, it's a little convoluted given the ownership of the parcel and everything else and what they're trying to do. So that would be the one thing I want to make sure we clearly give direction on or establish is whether or not we're going to require any fees. I do think the city should approve the sign prior to procurement. So we should definitely make sure that we're making sure they're aware and they've triple confirmed and they didn't go order something. And then I just want clarification on whether we would have the VFW using volunteer work to install the sign or the city installing the sign by our requirements. So I'd just ask staff and council to clarify that for me because from a safety perspective, I'm not sure. I could go either way on that one.
All right. Thank you. Good comments. I agree.
and I would just add that I just trust the city would take care of that. And we don't need to take that sort of action, right? We just don't charge a permit. You know,
Right.
one thing.
We
when
do
that-
have to take that action.
Yeah.
But
And when that first came up, I mean, the person that's proposing that, that family donated the land for that park. So we should be as accommodating as we can.
So I want to support
Yep.
them by making sure that they order, it's gonna last.
Yep. Caroline?
I mean, I think I'm pretty much on the same thought. And then I know you said they did a whole bunch of, interaction with the community. I don't think that's necessary on this one to go through those kind of steps on this, really. I think just making sure they're very clear that yes, we approve the design and that it has to be made so that it fits the parameters of what it is. So it's made to go bolt in place. So make sure that's very, very clear that, what it needs to be designed on the backside. And then, yeah, if it's just to take it on and off, I don't see there's any problem with the staff doing it. So
Yeah.
it works for me.
Great. So direction? Or we should make a motion on this since we're going to direct the waiving of signage fees.
So you don't need to issue a sign permit. It's city property. It's a city
Yep.
sign. The proposal to council is to adopt the resolution to rename the park, and the resolution contains direction to staff to replace the sign if you receive enough donations to cover the cost.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, move on to item 8C, our Wood Rogers contract amendment to continue supporting planning application for Shady Glen Community Sewer Consolidation Project. Ron, you wanna kick this one off?
Is Jim happen to be on Zoom? So we've got Jim Fletter, he'll be on Zoom,
Okay.
and he'll go over the application process and why he's requesting the extra money.
Hi, Jim. Thank you for joining us.
Sorry, hello, you can hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, good, thank you. Yeah, this is Jim Fletter. I've been working on your wastewater systems for a while now. I can go through the history if you'd like, a little bit about this planning application for Shady Glen, consolidating Shady Glen, or just discuss the cost increase. Is there any?
So do you want the history, or do you just want to talk about why the cost increase?
Yeah.
Transparency, let's just talk about.
Yeah, if you just want to provide us information on why the cost increased, that's fine.
Okay, so originally this application started as simply an engineering process of consolidating Shady Glen. So we prepared the application, then it became clear that we had to do an annexation of Shady Glen, which increased the cost. So there was of the whole thing. A lot of some of the council members were part of the workshops that engaged Shady Glen on the annexation. So there was an amendment for the increase in cost. The project has originally started in about January of 2023 and anticipated to take a year. It's been now 2 years. It'll be probably August before the state approves the funding. We've got everything into them that they need. So we're just a little back and forth answering questions. Wood Rogers has reached our budget limit on that. So I'm requesting $10,000 just to answer questions. I doubt we'll use it all, and anything we don't use as far as the funding goes from the state rolls over to the planning budget.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions from the public on this item? No. Questions or comments from council? Larry, you got anything? Nope. Trinity?
No.
Okay. Caroline?
I just want to make sure that any changes that are made are very well documented as to who's responsible to it. Make sure that we're sticking within budget 100% and we don't run any risks, no surprises down the line of things exceeding it. So I just want to make sure everything gets very, very well documented, who's responsible for it, who's paying for how much, where it's coming from, and that we stick to budget on the whole thing. So that's.
Jim's usually really good about that.
Good. I just want to make sure
Because
that,
I know where you're coming from.
yeah, I just want to lay it out there and just say that it's very vital that we stay
Yeah.
under budget and making sure we know exactly who's responsible for each piece so that there aren't any surprises down the line. So that's it. Other than that, yeah, we got to get it done. Let them have it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this, Ron? Nope. All right, bring it back for a motion to approve.
I'll move approval on the item.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. And that concludes council business for tonight. We'll move on to item 9, go to the order. Larry, you got anything?
I do, yeah. It regards the Bianchini Committee. Both the city and Sierra Vista Center had lost the trust agreement. And that kind of kept things obscure for a while. And I think that there really wasn't any actions taken because of it. And I came upon one of those agreements and I brought it into the city. And what it comes down to is that there's an agreement, an amendment on how we allocate council people to that. And we've been treating it in our assignments as that we needed a primary and a secondary. And actually, the way it was done is that they're both on the committee. And it used to be that one of them had a 1-year term and the other had a 2-year term. But according to the amendment, both have a 1-year term. So I only bringing it up to ask that we put that on the agenda and make sure that we get this B&K committee going again with the right level of people on the committee. And yeah, so that's it, just to get that agendized and consistent with the agreement that's already in place, because it's an irrevocable trust.
Thank you, Larry. Go ahead, Trini. Did you
I
get that?
support your request. Oh, sorry. So sorry to be annoying and keep bringing it up about the girls' basketball team. But at the beginning of the meeting, I sent you an email, Connor, clarifying the Brown Act provisions on it. And I just want to ask council members who here, because I am under the impression that no one here knew that there was a deadline associated with this. Did any of you know there was a deadline associated with this? Okay, so on that point, because this is the first time the board is hearing of it, the Brown Act provision does allow us to take action on this item tonight because it was made aware to the council after the agenda was published that there was an item of urgency. And in addition to that, it is an item of urgency.
Qualify under an item of urgency as far as how far we can stretch that.
That is not defined by the Brown Act.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to stretch it and get it done. Don't get me wrong, but I just want to make sure that we're fully covered under item of urgency information.
And I did include another legal opinion just to make it really thorough.
Let's see here.
Because I think that's how we made that decision for Railroad Days. And I was like, okay, I know there was a reason, so I went and found the reason.
We have Jeopardy music while Connor studies this briefly.
I'm patient.
It's all good.
I'm patient.
Yeah.
If the council wouldn't mind, giving.
We can move
giving-
on and then come back to that.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
That's all I had for tonight was that one thing. And I'd love to spare everybody a special meeting if I can. So Carolyn, it's all
If
you.
not, we'll get the special meeting going. Don't worry about it. We'll get it done either way. All right.
Do what we need to do.
That's very important. And we just missed the fact that there was a deadline. So we want to make sure we get it done. All right. Caroline?
Here, I had this beautiful flyer handed to me that we have another play happening at the high school that is Hades Town, the teen edition. So you can get tickets and go watch the play at the high school. It is April 20th, let's see, Friday, the 25th and Saturday, the 26th at 7 PM and Sunday, April 27th at 2 PM. So there's a pretty play. What's up there? So you can go and check it out and watch our awesome teens play out Hades Town. So, and other than that, it's official that the Lions have got the Easter egg hunt happening. That's going, what is that? It's the 19th, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And other than that, I have no idea. It's been a long day. I'm good.
All right. Just got Fire Safe Council meeting will be in the City Hall chambers or City Council chambers at 6 PM tomorrow night. If anybody's interested in joining, it's always a good meeting. Lots of good information. All right, Connor, sorry, we gave you as much time as we can. Unless Ron wants to do a good of the order real quick too.
Some time.
Sean did not win trivia, by the way. He doesn't know
I did
anything
not.
about the
Yeah,
eighties.
we got last
Don't ask
place
him
on
about
my
the
team,
80s.
because I
He
answered
lost.
most of the questions. This time, that's what I get.
All right, I have digitized that Bianchini form or paperwork that Larry dropped off and it's stored in the cloud, so we will have it forever now. Apologize for missing the girls' basketball item. I looked through my notes. It wasn't on my notes. If we don't settle tonight, I will need information for a staff report from you. And then afterwards, we'll kind of huddle up and talk about a special meeting if we don't get it right now. And then one other thing, let's not forget the city and county administrators dinner is coming up tomorrow night.
I won't be able to attend. I'm at the Fire Safety Council meeting. I also wanted to, I forgot to plug trivia night again. It was a lot of fun, even though I didn't win. And they had a good prize. The Colfax Bistro gave a couple of $20 gift certificates for the winner. Everybody did a great job. Caroline was doing awesome, bussing tables and doing every tallying scores and running around everywhere, keeping it together. And great DJs. It's a lot of fun, and they're looking at expanding it too, and maybe doing it at Dine and Dash in the future.
Is this consistently a Tuesday night thing, or can we do a Saturday night eventually? Because I'm getting a lot of like pull to spend more time with my family, but I really want to do
But
this.
the kids are coming, so there's a bunch
Yeah.
of kids that hang out up there
It's
anyways.
family friendly.
Yeah.
It's totally family friendly. And the next one, they did vote on it. It's gonna be 90s instead of 80s. So we're going there. They were shooting for a little bit of the younger crowd on that one. I would say the challenge on the Saturday night is if the businesses are willing to give up that space for it. I don't know. And also, I mean, you're running on volunteers, so go ask Damon. Cause it's a Damon baby on that one. But really, my part of the purpose was to be able to encourage some nightlife on the weeknights, for locals. So, but I would say talk to Damon and see what he has to say, cause anything's possible. Yeah, well, because Dine and Dash really wants to have it done over there, but they're closed on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And right now we're doing it the second and fourth Tuesdays, but we can't do that if it's on a Wednesday because we're here.
Right.
So we may have to tweak it. And I think Jason's about to volunteer his space for me to do a I mean,
Maybe someone else can cater it if we can tickets in advance.
yeah, I would say talk to Dame, connect with Damon and just throw some ideas out there for him and see what it is, because I mean, it's free. We're not, nobody's getting charged for it to do it. And, really Damon and Angie are volunteering their time. Yeah. Yeah, we'd have to figure out how the food, whether, because obviously they can't be running it over that direction, but I don't know. But yeah, brainstorm it with Damon and see what we can come up with, because I have no problem moving locations with it, but Damon Glenn, it's Caroline's son. The trivia night was all his idea. Yeah.
Random.
Thank you.
Whatever the community wants to participate in and get people out and do things, I think we're all for. So, but yeah, trivia was all Damon's. Now, Damon does have another project that him and Sean are supposed to be working on, because they're supposed to be working on a soapbox derby
Oh, yeah.
down that beautiful new road we have over there. And I don't know where he's gone with that.
Just putting up flyers.
I'm down with that. Soapbox Derby.
Yeah. All right.
It's gonna happen.
No, I'm for it.
Ron's
I was gonna push for it this spring, so
Yeah.
I didn't know this was going on.
Don't worry, that's all on the 3rd of July's insurance.
No, yeah, you're not doing it on the 3rd of July. No. We need a separate event.
It's a nice separate micro event like we
That's right.
talk about.
Uh-huh.
more micro-
All right.
Yeah. And with that, I will say Connor's ready for your answer.
Okay, Connor, go ahead.
Well,
Thank you very
let's-
much.
Let's go ahead and close out good of the order.
Okay.
Do we have any other public comment? I'm sorry.
Well, I thought this was under good of the order. We're talking about it under good of the order, so.
I
that
was
we
gonna
can-
ask Councilmember Burris to make a separate motion for this.
Okay.
Um,
Great. Then do we have any public comment on good of the order? Anything we discussed under there? Okay, great. Then
All right.
that's closed and we'll move on to this last item.
Councilmember Burris, why is this urgent such that it needs to be addressed tonight?
Because the item before us that was requested was for us to make a contribution for presentation at the banquet, which closes the season for the girls' basketball, after which they disperse, and there won't be an opportunity to take all of the team and actually present this to them. We will not be able to do this again if it happens after Sunday. So that's is the same issue we've ran into 5 years in a row, where we were not able to get them together, because these are athletic students. They are not able to accommodate going outside of their already very tight schedules that are highly regimented.
And when did you learn the date of the banquet?
I learned the date of the banquet. Well, I haven't actually known the date of the banquet until about 5 minutes before I sent you that email. because I don't run the calendar, my husband does.
All right, well, my recommendation to council is that if you unanimously decide that this is an urgent matter that needs immediate action, and you also decide that you did not know of the urgency before the agenda was posted, then you can go ahead and vote on whether to take action on this fund request.
Okay.
So two steps there.
Okay.
First, decide whether it's urgent. Second, take action on the funds.
So I think due to the circumstances that are presented before us, this and Connor's breakdown of the clarification of the law and the rules of this, I think this can be classified as an urgent item because we will 100% miss the opportunity to do it. That's my opinion. Caroline,
Oh, absolutely.
Trinity,
Obviously, I agree because I'm pushing it.
Larry, you good?
I agree with supporting the girls' basketball program.
Okay.
Uh,
Do you agree that this is
Do you
an
agree?
urgency item that needs to be addressed tonight?
I agree with that,
Thank you.
Hold
but
on.
I have to
No,
admit,
wait. We gotta leave it at that because we're trying to keep it really succinct here. So that
there
we can
was
do this
another
right.
item mentioned.
Yes,
that-
and I'm gonna move down that item right now. And you'll have your chance to talk. Sorry.
So we have decided unanimously that this is an urgency item that we need to act on tonight.
Yes.
With that, would someone like to make a motion to donate the funds? And how much?
I will move that we make a donation of $1,000 to the girls' basketball team. And I'm not gonna argue with any alternate motion to that, but I'm shooting for the stars here. And that be presentable. I will present that at the banquet on Sunday night to the girls' basketball team.
I second that.
And this is for, again, this is 5 years of recognition. This is not a single year of recognition. So I want to be very clear about that we have not fulfilled our promise to them for 5 years.
Oh, I second that. And the organization is Lady Falcon Basketball. That's what they call themselves. That's the donation should go to them.
Thank you. So we have a clear motion. You good?
Yep.
Okay, we have a second on that. Caroline, did you have any comment?
Can I ask for just a second to pull up last week's agenda to see what the balance was in that account?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Just 2 seconds. Unless Shauna knows it right off the top of her head. But I know, Shannon, sorry. I know it was in the agenda last week, and so I just wanted to pull it up so we make sure we know where we were at.
Donation fund.
Right. And that, does that include what we gave to the Sierra Vista last week? Okay. All right.
You have the option to make an alternate motion or adjust the motion for a second.
How do I say that you got to keep 3rd of July in mind?
Which they requested 7,500 potentially as their tentative number.
Okay, so I just, is it because I'm involved with them? I don't know how to throw that out there.
That, we can also do that.
We can also.
Check cutting at the next budget too. That's how we've done it previously. 3rd of July comes out of the next fiscal year. So that July, basically we cut the check July 1st.
But we didn't this last time, right?
We didn't. but we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
that was the only hang up with that
That's-
this last
okay.
time. Yeah.
okay.
But this still doesn't push us over.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure that we were all remembering that and
Absolutely.
the dates and everything. That was all. That was all. And like you said, they have rocked for the last several years. They've worked really, really hard, and I know
Really
you.
last 40 years. but
Yeah,
last 5
yeah,
years.
they've been really on top of it. And I'm really excited that we were able to get them up on the billboard and you guys got that up and awesome. So yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
good job.
love seeing the fact that it got up there on the billboard pretty quick. So I'm okay with it.
And we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstain? Perfect. Passes. And we don't have a closed session tonight, so that was all we have on the agenda tonight. I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.